2021. Okay, so I need to do a roll call. Marissa Vitolo.
Here.
Mary Page Provost.
Here.
Todd Heron.
Here.
Ann Kenny.
Here.
Tony Calandrello. Not present. Bruce Jones. Not present. And David Druin.
Right here. No.
Wait, Bruce is here. Bruce Jones. Okay. We stand corrected. Bruce Jones, present.
You're all breaking up. Yeah.
All right. Is that everybody? I think that was everybody. Okay. So then we need to do the review and approval of the April 13th, 2021 meeting minutes. That's something you can do, Marissa.
Just real quick, did you mention Dawn Amy there? She's on the committee, but not here tonight.
Okay, so Dawn Amy is not
Mark is absent. So does anybody have any thing they need to change with the notes from last meeting?
Anyone?
So awesome. Approved.
Okay, I guess we need to do a motion to approve the minutes as written. Make a motion.
I will make a motion.
Second.
All of those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, the meeting minutes have been approved. We are going to move on to new business. And let's start with number one, status report on the web-based events calendar that a few people have been working on. I did see some of the notes from Ann and from Todd, and I think it's a good base as far as events, venues. I was talking with Ann earlier, and through Team, we have an arts and culture guide that has a lot of the annual festivals and a lot of that information and the dates and which Saturdays they fall on, and a lot of that kind of already saved. So that's something that we can add into that working doc so that it's part of it. But other than that, Ann, did you want to kind of give us an update on, I know some of the poking around you've been doing as far as, website names and different things of that nature?
Sure. I went ahead and secured a domain that is exeterartsandculture.com. I also secured a few others, but I'm thinking that probably is the best one. And I looked at some websites. There's a town, Carmel, Indiana, that's known as this kind of arts district, that is similar to Exeter, really. Everybody goes there. It's got the arts, it's got great food, it's got music, it's got cultural institutions, a Monon trail that people hike and bike. And anyway, their website, a little more than we need because they have some bigger venues too, but they did a nice job of, kind of an arts and culture website. And just one thing I was thinking, if I lived in town or even visited here, not just a calendar, but something that just is more of a static website of, not only the events, the venues, the bookstore, the historical society, it would be a listing somehow, maybe a few pages that would just be informative. If you were, even if you moved into Exeter, you would find out where everything is, the Independence Museum. So, I was thinking about that as well as a calendar, because that you wouldn't have to be constantly updating. It would be kind of a simple but nicely designed, user-friendly website that would be exeterartsandculture.com. I mean, I don't know. So I don't know how people feel about that, but I was kind of looking around and I looked at Austin, Texas, which is huge. And then I find out Todd lived there or something, but they're a place with a lot of music, arts, and culture. And they had some neat little websites, ways of promoting their arts and culture. So, I kind of tend to do research before I lock into something. So that's what I did after our last meeting. So.
Okay. Anyone else? Todd, did you have anything to say? I did see the notes that you had put together about some of the other venues and some of the resources and venue.
I was just going to add on to what Ann said. I like that idea of on the website, and maybe you could share those websites with us, or a few of those websites that you've been looking at, so we could take a look as well. But I like the idea of having just standing information on cultural, artistic venues that rest in town. You mentioned the Historical Society, for example. I mean, those places, I'm sure, have a statement, a description, right, that we could simply, with their permission, upload and have as part of our website too. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yes, and it's easy to link. Like if people just clicked on the Historical Society, they might have their own link, or Water Street Bookstore, or PEA lectures, or whatever. So it's easy to make a static link that then might have the calendar and events going on at the time. And I did send Marissa at least 2 of the links of websites. So I'm hoping, like, as we do this, there'll be a package that comes out, and that way we all get to learn these things prior to a meeting.
Are we going to be advising the creation of this website, or will we be creating the website?
My understanding is we can't have a website that represents this committee, but we can certainly work together toward the creation of this website. It's not going to be an Exeter Arts and Culture Advisory Commission website, but us working toward the goal, this website existing, and then obviously advising the town manager's office, the select board. Let's get this website on the town website. Like I mentioned in the last meeting, there is a landing page on the town website that does have our Team Exeter website, Visit Exeter NH, the Chamber of Commerce. So there's already a landing page on the town website for these types of outlets. So, I agree with everything you guys are saying. And again, I just want to make sure that as we do figure out the best way to share all of this information and collaborate, a lot of this stuff we do have on the Arts and Culture Guide as part of the physical guide itself that we made through Team, but also on our website. And so obviously, the more places all of this information is found and is accessible, the better, but just so that people aren't repeating and trying to compile data that we already have compiled, as far as maps, links, locations, we have all that stuff. So I think it seems like the next step here is just figuring out also the best way for us to be sharing all of this information and having a packet ahead of these meetings so that we're not kind of working backwards and everyone's seeing the same information. So I think that could be a next step that I can certainly clarify through the town, what is the best way for us to do that, with the select board before they have a meeting. A packet in the agenda is posted and goes out. So I think we can probably work toward doing the same thing so that we're not always scrambling after the fact.
Yeah, and that's where the confusion is in lying, because if we're all on a Google Doc at the same time, it could be considered a quorum, as from what I was told. So what I did is I created a PDF to kind of go with this packet, but it is only, Todd, it is your list. And then Ann, it's a couple of things you sent me. That's That's all that's on that PDF. So we looked at other, like I looked at different calendars and I looked at all that, but knowing that we cannot have our own website, I wasn't looking into creating one because, it has to be done by Joe Schmo or one of us independently. And also, kind of like what Scott's saying, if the information's already out there, I don't know if we can use the Exeter for Exeter on Facebook or something like that. That's why, I didn't really do very much. I just listed, Todd, what you sent me and what Ann sent me. So I can add that PDF to the packet. I don't really know. Because again, it was just a Google Doc. So if we were all in it at one time, I didn't want to do anything that would be getting any of us in trouble. So, or whatever. I don't really know the rules. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So,
do you want me to send you links then? Because I was thinking the links would go into the package and then people are able to.
The links that you sent me are already in it. Like I said,
they are.
It's everything you sent me. It's a photograph that you sent me, a list of what you sent me. Those two.
Okay.
I just didn't know how to share it. I didn't know if it should be
okay.
doc or PDF. But I think I can add it to this packet, Scott. I'll just get if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll find all of this stuff out tomorrow so that moving forward, we're not constantly talking about
right.
confusion and all that. So,
and there was also talk last time about parameters, like what defines arts and culture. So who would be included in a calendar or website. So I think that still needs to be kind of flushed out, probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think to me, that's the biggest sort of question of, there's certain venues that are obviously arts groups and obviously culture groups. And then when events come in that are kind of, on the fence. So, yeah, agreed.
And I mean, arts is easy to define. Culture is not as easy to define. So that's probably something that we should take on before we take in submissions for people who think that they should be a part of it or shouldn't be, either way.
Well, Scott, you had this idea last meeting where it was like a Facebook page where you or any of us were like, okay, who is going to allow to be the admin? And I think, you know the most about it, but where you said like certain admins will be able to post certain things. So again, it would have to be like by a citizen, but I don't know, you might have more information like explaining that, but is that what Exeter for Exeter was? Is that what that Facebook page was?
Yeah, I mean, that was just when we didn't have this commission and a group of us in town were kind of working on we were calling it a quality of life cultural commission. So to accomplish a lot of these same things. So that was just a working name, and there is a Facebook page. So it's one of those things where, we could get that off the ground as just a place for events, and then the name could even be changed to whatever. Obviously what Ann is referring to with Direct Arts and Culture website, I agree, is just more straightforward and easier to find in Google searches. So these are things that we can get going as sort of placeholders, just, to move forward. And then as the best sort of option emerges, that can become the name or the website or the landing page for Facebook. And as far as the Facebook pages go, some people do it where there's an admin that kind of like oversees it, but then also now a lot of the pages just do it where the other venues and organizations can just add that page as a co-host type thing on the event, and then it will automatically show up in the calendar. So
I agree with you, Mary, page 2, because, it seems like an initial thing to do is just find that parameter of what's going to be the arts and culture. And I think between Scott's list that he has in his guide and a nice map, I might add, but Todd has a list that seems comprehensive. And if those come in a package, those two lists, and then we can discuss, are we going to kind of narrow it in a little? So I think that's a good idea maybe to plan for our next meeting, because we do want to start with that. I assume that we've kind of got that in mind.
okay, yeah, I agree. Let's start compiling what we have, and I can bring in the info that I have through the Team Arts and Culture Guide and just see what's new on this list. And then, I think the biggest piece is going to be, what is an arts and culture event? And, I don't know who wants to take on throwing out the first definition of that, but I think that's something we can put in the agenda for the next meeting.
And I sent everybody, I added to Scott's packet already, so the Ann and Todd's stuff's already been sent out. So that list is there, and we can compare notes. So I guess I'm trying to clarify for the notes, and what do you want to do moving forward? We want to just compare the notes, just look at the list and see what's art and culture, then are you going to start working on a website?
No, I think we're advisory. So we would have to talk to the select board that we have this idea, we have a domain, we've looked at, we'd maybe, we would have a designer, possibly, and I don't even know if you need to use my list, because I think Todd's list may have what I have and more. So, rather than make it more complicated, just nix mine, which was a brainstorm handwritten list. So it's not even good, but I'm just thinking Scott and Todd simplify it, and we've got plenty of, listings there. And as far as the website, like I built one for Art up Front Street, and I just built my new one. So I do know a lot about websites, and Wix is where you can get a website, and it's very simple to use. And they have these nice templates, so it doesn't have to be overly complicated or expensive. But I do think we're advisory there, and we'd have to get feedback from the select board about how they feel about it and how it would be used. I just think you should go to Town of Exeter and Arts and Culture, exeterartsandculture.com, boom. And then it would come up when you search Exeter, it would come up right away. So anybody in town or visiting, I think it'd be really user friendly. So anyway.
Yeah, I guess we need to find someone that is willing to pay for, I know Wix has free and Weebly has free, but it's usually wix.com/Exeter Arts, so you have to pay to transfer the domain. I just did my own website myself too. So I just had to transfer all my domains over. So I guess if we wanted to have a website, we could find a volunteer possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is all stuff that we can, within smaller work groups, figure that out. Why don't we close it out with this? I will take the list that both Ann and Todd made and kind of cross-reference that with the lists that we have from the team guide and start moving toward a larger list. And then, everyone else can still add input to that. And then we can move toward the, what is an arts event type thing. So, all right, can we move on from that one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So now update on the Founders Park sculpture. We kind of had a few different people digging up some stuff. Mary Page got some info. Bruce went down and did an actual kind of inspection of the piece. And we got 2 news articles from the newsletter that all of you should have seen that to me were very interesting, just because with what we're working on right now, I didn't know the history of the piece. And what was interesting to find out is that in 1988, the town of Exeter put up $30,000 for this art sculpture. So that was
1988.
Yeah, 1988. So, what's that now? 70,000, 80,000? Right. So what we're pretty much waiting on is Hope from the library said she does have a file on this this work, but that it sounds like it's probably in storage because of the project going on at the library. So we're kind of waiting on that. The news articles did have a lot of information about it, but Bruce, do you want to give us a little update on what you saw and what you found with the piece?
Yeah, there is some deterioration to the piece. It was cast concrete, and so water is infiltrating the piece and will deteriorate it. And from what I've learned, they didn't want to restore it before because the chemicals used would pollute the river. So I'm waiting to hear from Hope to see the original proposal to restore it, to see what they were using to clean the piece, and then we can adjust it from there. They have new products out now that may be more suited for the environment there. So that's what we're waiting for, is from, and then once we hear from Hope, we can meet with Parks and Rec and go down. The pieces, Emil was like, well known in the area. He did a lot of sculptures. And so it's an important piece that should be preserved. And
I talked to Barbara at the Historical Society. Sorry, Bruce, you froze, so I didn't know you were still going. But I talked to Barbara at the Historical Society, and she actually does it, uses the sculpture as part of her tour with the Girl Scouts. So she knows everything about it. She found those articles for me, but also, you look through the notch. I was right about that. In one notch, you look into old Exeter, and the other notch looks into the library, like when the library was built, those new sculptures on the top of it, kind of the pyramids on the top, and that was New Exeter. So, and there's a lot about the water and the river. So there's a lot to educate the town about too, that I don't think that most people know really what the symbolism is behind it and what the sculptor was thinking when he really embraced Exeter's history to build it.
I believe it was called the Gateway to Founders. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a little gateway to the parkway down in there.
And I did have a conversation with Greg from Parks and Rec, and obviously his big concern is that there's not funding that exists for sort of a certainly there might be some for a generic cleanup of the piece, but certainly not for any restoration or repair, that kind of thing. So once again, funding is going to be an issue, and sounds to me like a piece of advice we can give to the town is that, with a piece of public art like this, that, maybe there should be some sort of plan or some sort of budget toward preservation and repair. And, because the piece, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, it sounds like it did coincide with this library project in 1988. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
It was.
Okay. So, so certainly.
Yeah, it was one big project, yeah.
Okay. So it seems like time is of the essence to figure something out so that when they finish this new library renovation, that, certainly there's something that can be done with this piece to coincide with that. Anyone else? All right.
I would suggest, to Parks and Rec. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My computer's breaking up. Okay. My thing would be like the caulking's failing around a lot of it, the cast pieces, if that could be like secured, and then, maybe raise some funds to do a better job to it, just to stabilize it so that there was no more deterioration to the piece.
I have one thing to add. Good. I think that one component of culture is memory. When this piece was created, and the people who preserve the memory of the intentionality that goes into the piece, the old Exeter. That's completely lost, I think, to many citizens of the town, visitors of the town. And so I'm wondering if part of our purpose as an advisory commission here could be to advise the reinstitution of that cultural memory around the piece, however that may be, whether it were through an interpretive plaque. I'm not the biggest fan of interpretive centers when it comes to public art, but if there were something that preserved the intentional memory, the original memory or intention, of the piece, I think that might be within our provenance too.
I agree. I was surprised. I learned so much when Barbara was telling me about it, and the fact that all of us on the Arts and Culture Committee, none of us knew anything about it, didn't know any of the symbolism or what, the sculptor was thinking when he was, embracing Exeter and building that. So I think it's really, I agree, Todd. I think it's important that we kind of re-educate the town on that.
I agree as well.
Yeah, and there's a fascinating piece as well. I don't know if anybody took the time to really zoom in on the bronze plate, that has the verbiage that's there. And certainly, we're in a very different place now than we were in 1988. And the town of Exeter, in the last few months, officially changed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. And, some of the language on the plaque is, it's interesting. So, it's certainly a new lens as far as, if that piece were to be constructed and unveiled today. So, yeah. Anyone else?
Actually,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Todd.
Just as a side note, one of my students at Phillips Exeter was responsible for that change in the nomenclature, Indigenous Peoples Day. And so I'm wondering if that might be a way to connect the Academy with celebration, commemoration, remembering of this particular piece of art.
Yeah, and one of the images on it is of, there's three images, right? There's a Native American who was one of the, I don't remember who all the people were, but one of them was John Phillip, right? I believe is on there as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure the history because I haven't seen I'm kind of eager to see the more detailed file as well. I'm just referencing the verbiage, which I'm assuming was taken from a document, from hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and just sort of dissecting that. But yeah, let's get all the info we can get, and then take the next steps. But I think everybody's got great ideas of how to kind of use it with everything going on right now, and give it some new life. All right. Anyone else on the Founders Park sculpture? Nope. All right. We're moving on. So number 3, update on citizen input process. And I can't remember who was if anyone was really looking into that. Obviously the meetings are live and people can call in. So I guess it's just a matter of getting that out there. But I think certainly having a way to get, direct correspondence, whether it's emails or, I don't know, Marissa, do you remember when we were on the arts committee? Wasn't there one sort of email that was kind of for the committee itself?
I think what do we do now? We can go back and look at Facebook Live comments and all that. But when we were on the Exeter Arts Committee, it was through email, or people could, and through that email, they informed us if they wanted to come to a meeting. So then we would use the first 15 to 20 minutes to hear from the public. And it happened fairly often, actually. If anyone wanted to let us know about an event, or wanted to use the space, or wanted to, pair up with us in some way. So, Yeah, but it wasn't a form. It was just like, here's an email to the chair, and she would read it at the meeting, and then we would discuss and then invite the person in if it was something that they needed to speak to us in person about. And that was our method. And that was it. So, I mean, now we have comments we can look at. I don't know. Do we have an email address? I guess we do. I think Bob was going to put a form for people to fill out a form for us on the arts and culture page in the town's website also.
Okay. I mean, I'll add that to the list of things to get confirmation from the town, whether or not, because I don't know with some of the more, accurate changes with 91A and all that. I don't know if a committee having an email is in play anymore, but
Right.
Add that to the list to find out from the town, and then also maybe through Bob of the best way to just get correspondence coming in that people don't have to Zoom in the meeting or call in, but they can still send over an email.
I wonder if there's a public action as not just an advisory commission, but as an advocate for the arts. If there are artists in town who need help with direction or connection, that we could word out there that they could use us as a resource to advise them, their artistic, whatever it is, journey, career, moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe Todd or anybody, like, we should clarify, that's a possibility that we could do. I don't know. Is that in our mission? I'm trying to look.
Well, I think it's well in line with our mission.
Yeah, I agree.
It says involve community, which would be artists, art and culture people. And we mentioned, even the high school students that are getting out of high school that might be on to a hopeful career, and integrate culture into educational, recreational, and social activities. So I would say we're that vein.
So, if there was a young artist or a group of young artists who were wondering, well, we got all this stuff and we want to know where in town could we put it up? Where could we exhibit it? They could come to us and we could say, here are the resources.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. All right. Anyone else on that? All right. We're going to move on to number 4, update on funding. And I'm just going to read a little note that Tony, kind of added onto this to sort of trigger some conversation. There's no current funding available, but we should plan on discussing and proposing items for the budget process that will kick off usually around August or possibly earlier. We should plan on having a list of recommendations started in July to bring to the budget committee when they start their process. And I, in the packet or the docs that I emailed over to you guys, I did send a document that had a breakdown of, I believe, 2019, 2020, 2021 of funding from the town that was allocated under, the sort of section of, I don't know if it was arts and culture. It was culture and entertainment or something to that effect. I don't know if anybody has it in front of them, but that should give everybody a pretty good idea. Let me see what they call it. The other.
Yeah, other culture budget versus actual expenses.
Right. So, and this is parades and Parks and Rec concerts and the brass band and Christmas lights and, all that kind of stuff. But it just gives everybody an idea of what is currently being funded. I can share with you guys and with the public that, so when the Arts Committee was dissolved, I think the Arts Committee was getting $3,000 a year, right, Marissa?
Yeah, we had a town fund, and then we had a donation fund, which I think was about $3,000 a year.
Right. So, certainly there's precedence there with the, the arts committee being funded and having, use of the town hall gallery, and now learning a little bit more information about this public art piece in 1988. So, I don't know if anybody else has any input on, the best way to sort of, start kicking this one down the street.
I know in some other towns, they've already begun some budget talks about their budgets, because I think they formalize them in the fall in a way, or they get down to brass tacks. But I'm just wondering, let's make sure we shouldn't do it like in June if we want to throw out some ideas for funding. Like if we come up with a few concrete things we think are good, goals for the first year, and just nice to do it early on instead of after the budget talks have been going on for a while with other priorities. And so maybe ask like the chair of the budget committee, we're thinking this, what is the timeline we should get information in?
Okay. And also just to give everybody a heads up, I mean, there's all kinds of different structures as far as how the town funds these types of things. I mean, there's funding, let's see, the fireworks, that's part of the Independence Festival. The Independence Festival is a nonprofit. So, there's some of these committees are town committees, and the funding is going directly to the town committee. Others are kind of organizations that are receiving the funding. Some are kind of a mix where they're doing funding, fundraising on their own, but then get, sort of the base funding from the town. Obviously the brass band is just the brass band. Like they just get paid as musicians, which is great, but again, there's a precedent there that the town is paying artists and musicians directly for events. So I can tell you guys, when we were on the arts committee, when we started the First Friday concerts, that was something on the bandstand, to go along with art walks and whatnot. That was something that was founded and funded through the arts committee. So when the arts committee was dissolved, that's something where we lost the funding for that. So that's something that like team still does it, but now, we have to find a sponsor and do it that way. And obviously we were doing kind of like bands, and now it's duos and smaller performers. So just to kind of give you guys an idea of things that are funded, have been funded, no longer funded. Bruce, did you have something? No. Anyone else on the funding process and the budget process?
I'm curious like if there was already previous money for the Exeter Arts Committee, where did it go? What happened to it? And what would be the process to get it back? Because yes, we were using it for bandstand. We were using it for the art events we were doing in the town hall. We were doing it. We were using the money to help repair things so we could have art shows. So I wonder, especially if they're looking for us to use the town hall again, how do they expect us to do that? What are their thoughts, the select board and all of that, like going forward? Because it's sitting empty right now. I think we should totally, if possible, take advantage of it, especially for the youth art month that I do. The town was very helpful in that, but we don't have that committee anymore. So the last time I did it, I had to ask all the teachers to spend their own money, including my own money, to take care of that show. So I would love for the town to look at that again and be like, we have this empty space, beautiful galleries, beautiful during the day. We have these musicians, they're an asset to our community. So if Scott, if you can find out what that process would be, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. And I think one other sort of placeholder thing that could possibly go on agenda for the next meeting, but is visiting the permitting process and the fees, and there was a warrant article that Bruce actually sponsored a couple years ago that sort of triggered a new look from the town at permitting and pricing for organizations in town and residents and out of town and all that kind of stuff. And some of it reflected what this warrant article said, and a lot of it didn't reflect what the warrant article said. And, so I think that's something we should probably revisit, where, how are our resources being used for our organizations in town and for our artists? And then also if people are going to be paying fees for use of town hall, I, for one, certainly think we should be recommending and advising that the money is being reinvested back in to the building. Because the town hall, for example, is in need of a lot of renovations, updates, and so I think if we're all working hard to make it a place for arts and culture in town, then let's figure out a way to reinvest back into it. So, all right, that's all I have on that. Anybody else? All right, moving on. Number 5, other new business. Does anybody have any new business?
You have a different agenda than I do, sir. I'm going to add this in.
Okay, well, no, then you have the right agenda then. This is my cheat sheet notes from Tony. So maybe that status quota, ask if there's any other new business from anybody. That's where.
Do you want to talk more about that warrant article, or do you want me to table it? Like, we can table it.
Well, let's get it on the agenda, and then that can be in everybody's packet, just so they can be familiar with what it says and all of that. One other thing that I think will probably come across our radar eventually, and that maybe we should all start thinking about, is a big topic of conversation is Swayze Parkway and the use of Swayze Parkway, and will it remain closed to vehicular traffic? And that's something that is certainly, I think, going to be something that the select board is discussing and that people are going to be chiming in on. And there's already a lot of that discussion going on social media. So I think, that's something that certainly is within our purview. So I think we should sort of get that on the agenda, and also get everybody sort of familiarized with the relevant documents for that as well, and what the trust for Swayze Parkway actually says, because it sort of gets interpreted in many different ways. So it'd be good for everybody to be kind of familiar with that.
You want me to put that for next meeting?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then you can, I don't know, is the trust on the town website?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we can add it to the packet, so everybody.
Okay.
Does anybody have any initial thoughts on that, or is that something we should just wait until the next meeting and get it on the agenda?
Was there anything in the trust about public art in Swayze Parkway?
Not that I know of, but it's, I think it's like a 15-page document. So again, that's something, the big phrase that everybody goes back to is that the park shall be used for park-like activities and pleasure vehicles. So again, open to interpretation. What is a park-like activity? And in 2021, what is a pleasure vehicle? So,
yeah, good question.
I say, a bicycle, a scooter, a wheelchair, a baby stroller, but,
Or a strong carriage.
What's that? Not a hot rod, Bruce. Not a. All right. Do we have anything else?
Nope.
All right. I think we're good. Does anyone want to make a motion to close?
No, I think, I think,
I think Bruce might be on a delay here. All right. I think we're going to close this meeting out. Does anyone want to make a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Second. All right, guys. We're going to close the next meeting is 11th at 6 p.m. Is that correct? I thought it was 6:30 that we were doing. Were we doing 6:30 on the second Tuesday?
Do you want me to look
5:30
back at the notes from last week?
Yeah, I thought it was 6:30 on Tuesdays and 5:30 on the fourth.
Yeah, that's my recollection as well.
6:30, 5:30.
Let me just check really quick, because I wrote it down. Yep, 6:30, second Tuesday, 6:30, fourth Tuesday's 5:30. So I'll change that. So,
all right.
6:30 for May the 11th.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.